Hi Tarot Tribe and Witchy Loves, it's Ethany, and I haven't done one of these videos in a while, my spiritual journey video, so it's time to kind of come back to some of that and talk a little bit about Coven practice versus solitary practice as a modern eclectic witch, and finding a coven or a group, and then my experience. So it's a very big, it's a big topic, and I have been asked to talk about this from a number of people when I posted the first my spiritual journey video. So this is my opinion, this is my experience. You don't have to share any of my views, you don't have to agree with anything that I say. I'm simply sharing. Now I've got that little disclaimer out of the way. So I have actually worked in both covens and as a solitary witch within my journey. And they, of course, both have their benefits, and they, of course, have their areas where they can be challenging. So it's really about where you're at and what you're really looking for, like what you want, what you're really craving and what you really want out of your practice. And as far as the benefits and limitations that I am about to mention, this is not an exhaustive list. I'm sure I've missed some things out. These were just things that really stuck out for me and that came to mind when I was thinking about this and writing the post that goes along with it. So the benefits of working as a solitary witch, pagan, chaos magician, bunny rabbit, I mean however your spiritual practice is, the benefits of working alone on your path is that you say what goes and what doesn't. So great. If it doesn't feel right, then you don't have to do it. You can basically create your own path, very tailored and individual path. So that's definitely a benefit for working as a solitary, that you say what goes and what doesn't. Another benefit is that there is a ton of information out there. There's so much information out there, sometimes too much, which can be a limitation, that when you want to work on your own, at least it's not in a time where you couldn't find stuff. I remember when I started out, and oh my gosh, I can only imagine people who were a generation older than me, what they had to go through to find information before the internet was like accessible on your freaking watch or whatever the heck you've got. Kids these days. I'm so old. But I can only imagine what that was like for them, and I've actually spoken to a lot of them because a lot of them are my friends. And how hard it was for them to find information. But when I started, there wasn't a ton on the internet. Thank God for Witchbox. And you had to go to bookstores and just find the one or two books that were out there by Unky Bucky or Scott Cunningham, and kind of go from there. And even one bookstore, I remember, they sealed their books, so you couldn't even go in there and open them and have a look at the book. You had to buy it first. So it was difficult to find stuff, but now there is a ton of information out there. There are amazing people on YouTube. There are amazing blogs. There are amazing websites. You can do online courses. I mean, it's pretty great. And that leads into my next one of benefits of being a solitary, is that you can do an online course. If you're really isolated and in a space where you live, and God, I've spoken to so many of you who feel this way, who live in areas where it's not such a great idea to kind of be walking around town with the biggest pentacle you can find, like dragging down your neck and, all that kind of stuff, because people may be a little bit close-minded. you can find amazing online courses. You know, there's whether you like it or not, I'm just saying it's available. Don't all crucify me. But you know, you've got Witch School, you've got Lucy Cavendish and the amazing Wendy Rule. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you do not know this woman's work, if you do not know her music, go find her. I'll put a link below because this woman is the balls. There's Christopher Penczak, and I'm just naming like a few people that I know and that I have done work with, and I have met. Like, I have met Lucy Cavendish and I've met Wendy Rule on a number of occasions. She sang at a friend's wedding and we actually had dinner together, and I was like fangirling the entire time, like, oh my god. I've seen her perform on a number of occasions. I've been to workshops for both Lucy and Wendy in person. So I know these, and Christopher Penczak, I adore his work. I think he has got some of the best modern literature out there, especially his temple, the inner temple and the outer temple of Witchcraft. I like the way that it's laid out, that you have exercises, the CDs are so great for people who want a self-paced path. Like, there is some good shit out there, folks. And even if you can't do any of that, there are some amazing people on YouTube that have got just incredible stuff out there. So there's a lot. So yeah, there's some really good stuff that can help support you in your solitary practice. But there are a ton of limitations working as a solitary. It can get really fucking lonely. And for me, that was the breaker. That was the reason why I went, you know what, I want to go find some more people because I am lonely. I'm a social Gemini person. And I was just like, I'm so lonely. I'm sitting in my corner with my anime and no one here wants to play with me. Like, it just felt very lonely. I like community. I like feeling like I belong. I love talking about things that I'm passionate about until, 3 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, it can get really lonely. Then we have the flip side of like a lot of people. It can be tough when there is, a lot of people, because some people can be not so great. You can get the bad apples or can have a bad experience. And I've had this with friends who have just had shocking experiences, or people trying to take advantage of them. And you hear the whispers and the gossip in the communities about what's happened with so-and-so and the witch wars and all this kind of crap. But that's going to happen in any community. That happens in every workplace, for goodness sake. It's very Mean Girls, but anyway. If you're stuck as well, another limitation is if you're stuck, or if you're at a level where, like, a lot of the 101 books, you're kind of comfortable. When you've been practicing the Wheel of the Year, for example, you've been marking the Sabbats and the Esbats, been celebrating them for years, and you're like, now what, right? Like, I've been on my own, and now what do I do? Or if you haven't got a mentor to talk to, and you just want to talk to someone and be like, am I on the right path here? I've been experiencing this, or I've been experiencing that. I don't really know, but like all that sort of stuff, it can be really tough. So having someone to learn from face to face, or having someone to bounce ideas off, or voice your concerns or your experiences with is very important. And if you're on your own, it can be very limiting. Trust me, your cat is not going to go all Sabrina on you and give you some wise wisdom. Although if it did, that'd be amazing. And one of the big things, I keep saying today, one of the big things about being a solitary is it's easy to get a little lazy and a little stagnant. And I know this because I have to be aware of it with my own practice. If you haven't got someone else trying to like herding the sheep or the cats, as it may be, because the pagan community can be like herding cats, it can be really hard. You can be like, I'm just going to stay home and watch Netflix, and I'm going to watch Charmed reruns and feel witchy that way instead of maybe going out and doing your practice. So that can be a very big limitation there. So let's look at the benefits that I have come across for working in a coven or a circle or a group. Call it whatever you like. So if you find the right people, my tea has gone to that point where it's too cold to drink. I like hot tea. I want like hot tea. So if you find the right people, it can be amazing. It can be an incredible environment for support, for growth, for friendship and family. And I mean, like every relationship, it has to be the right one, and people do change. People will come and go, but the right people can make your path even better. And I have experienced this for sure. Rituals and events take on a whole new meaning and understanding with like-minded people, and that is definitely a benny of working in a coven. Definitely. There is something about coming together with a group of people to hold space and be in sacred circle and witness for each other and hold that energy for each other and be there through breakthroughs or supporting a sister or a brother through a difficult time, or connecting with deity in a way that you just didn't even know was possible in a group. It is incredible, and I've had some unbelievable experiences, and most of them have been with my Covens. So and I'm going to try really hard not to get emotional because I'm away from them and things are changing and moving and shifting because it's been a while. And another benefit is that you can share more of the work. So a great thing about being in a coven or a circle is that preparing for a ritual, you can go to different houses at each time. Like, we didn't have a covenstead, and often, if you don't know what a covenstead is, the covenstead is the more traditional idea of like there was a house or a space or someone, like the high priestess's house, maybe the covenstead, where everything was done in the covenstead. Or it may be a dedicated area if you don't have a home or a place of worship and celebration. Whereas we used to house hop, so to share the load a little bit, and we traveled from all over the state. So it was good to be able to do that. And then, we would all bring a plate of food and we would all help with the preparation and the cleaning. People could bring different things. So it wasn't all on just one person, which can be quite taxing if you're doing a lot of ritual, depending on how elaborate your rituals are going to be. But yeah, it was great. Like we would store some of the Coven stuff, like the chalice and our lanterns and things in a certain place, and people would bring their singing bowls and their drums, and it was just a lot. It was cool, basically. Another benefit is there are more ideas with more people. Like, of course, you're going to have more ideas for what to do and how to celebrate and what you can bring in. And I love collaborative anything. I love collaborative learning. I love collaborative working. One of the big challenges I have working for myself from home a lot of the time on my own is I don't get to collaborate as much, which is like why I like to do things with other people and why I like to do fairs and kind of reach out, because it's kind of my natural way of being. So it's a lovely way to collaborate. Another benefit is it's a wonderful way to learn from people with a lot of experience, and we all have a different lens in which we view things. We all have a different point of view. We all have different opinions, and it can be amazing. And my last one that I have here is it can help you stay focused and motivated, especially if you're all going through sort of some of the same stuff, or you have a goal, or if you're working through a book together, or if you're all going through the same degrees, depending on the tradition that you have, or if you're even going traditionally. It can help you stay focused and motivated. All right, so now some limitations, because I have them. People. People are people. Sometimes people suck. Sometimes people flake, they bail, they get sick, they have family emergencies, and they bring their shit into circle. Holy crap, have I had that many times. And, sometimes that's even in public circle. I've had that with big events. A good high priestess or high priest or coven leader or whoever is taking care of holding that energy as the person who's facilitating that circle should be able to take care of this stuff. But look, it still happens. Hey, we're all people and we're all going to make mistakes. The wrong group environment can be a total shit show. It really can. I've heard it from flat out abuse to energy stealing to like just drama. It can be really hard because there is a difference between In some covens, it's like there's a difference between even liking a person socially, or I wouldn't choose to spend time with this person socially, but you're going to then spend time with this person spiritually. I never really got that. I want to work with people that I like, because I'm bearing a very vulnerable part of who I am. And it's not that I don't want to show people I don't like that I'm vulnerable, because I mean, I do, but circle for me is like, it feels like it should be more like family. But there are people who can come to ritual and can come to circles that have been very well established and traditional, and not even have to worry about it. They'll be like, hey, we may not hang out and get coffee or go see a movie together, and you like Pepsi or I like Coca-Cola or whatever it is, but we can get into circle and have an amazing time and connect at that level and then leave it. So there are lots of different structures. And that's something, if you ever want to get into a coven or a circle, that you'll have to speak to the high priestess or the high priest or the coven leader, whoever it is, about what the rules are, because there should be coven rules if you have a circle. I definitely think that should be the way to do it. Another limitation, and this kind of leads into it, is that most established covens or circles tend to have well-established rules and a way of doing ritual. Okay, so some people are going to love this and they thrive on the routine, they thrive on the structure. Others do not. They more want to go with the flow. They like chaos. They don't want to be told to wear a certain colored robe. They don't want to be told that they can't wear streetwear to circle, which I was like, cool, you want to wear streetwear to circle, then go for it. But you will know from an outer court or from a training what the structure of the coven is going to have. And for those of you who don't know what outer court means, usually an outer court is a training system which is a year and a day, more traditionally a year and a day, where you would learn and observe the Wiccan wheel or the pagan wheel, or whichever kind of tradition you're learning. And you would have that year and a day to decide whether it was for you and whether you wanted to be a part of the coven. And it was a formal, and sometimes it was just a verbal, you wouldn't get anything, but I've done handouts and things like that. So you'll learn when you spend time with your groups. And outer courts are great because it gives you an ability to kind of test the waters and allow yourself to let things sink in and decide whether it's really for you. So those are some of the things that I've come across in regards to coven versus solitary practice. If you want to find people in your area, here are some of my suggestions. And again, it's not an exhaustive list, but it can be somewhere for you to start. Check out Pagan Pride in your local area. There are local organizers in a lot of places, and it's a worldwide organization. So it's paganpride.org, and I've put the link below, and it's also over at ethny.com where the transcription for this is. Witchbox.com was like the place that I went for everything. It's when I did workshops, and I'm going to go through my journey being a solitary practitioner, moving into working with a coven in a minute. But Witchbox was where I advertised my groups, where I found people, where I found events, and they have a ton of information over there as well. And they also have outer court listings, so all the programs can be outer court too. You can also join, like I said, any one of the like online courses that are out there, and you can maybe find local people as well. There are, of course, Facebook groups and things like that. But Meetup is another really good one for groups or areas in your groups or events in your area. So meetup.com, check that out. And then visit your local metaphysical stores and see what courses they have to offer. I have made some really great friends just at workshops, and maybe not even necessarily like flat out pagan or Wicca workshops, just workshops that I was interested in, so like crystal healing, or I mean, a lot of them have been sort of that more of that paganism thing. But yeah, have a look at your metaphysical store. And then some festivals as well, which I didn't initially think of, but I'm thinking about it now. So festivals, like I've been to FairyCon, I've been to Fairy Worlds, and they are very pagan-esque. You will find people that have businesses there that you may not have known about that you can then connect through locally, or you'll find friends there. I remember seeing a friend from Perth in Oregon at Fairy World, and we were just like, hey you, and he was like, hey you, and I was dressed like a fairy and he was like a pirate, and we were like, what's up? So there are lots of places that you can find people, but I would just stress that you allow it to take the time that it's going to take, because for me it took a long time to find the right people, and I'm glad I didn't force or rush it, because I could have had some pretty nasty experiences, or at least experiences that may have deterred me from trying to find people. So now my experience, and this is going to be probably one of the longer videos I have ever done, but that's okay. Maybe you're still with me, maybe not. So this is, my journey, and I just want to make a note on sexual acts in Wicca and paganism and witchcraft. If anyone, I don't care who they are, wants to do anything sexual in a ritual or out of ritual that you are even remotely uncomfortable with, run. Do not walk away. If anyone touches you in anywhere and makes you feel uncomfortable, tell them to back off. Do not stand for that shit. Report them. No one, no matter the spiritual path or religion they choose, should hide behind it to take advantage of anyone. I have been lucky. I have been extremely lucky, but I have heard stories. And I go into a little bit about the buddy system of taking someone with you. And when I ran a teen group, I'll get into that. But yeah, just listen to your intuition and, stay safe, guys. And same with money. Hey, like, use your common sense. I charged $10 for my class to cover the hire of the hall that I was using when I did do like public out of court. And the photocopying for the notes and the drinks and the snacks. And that was a long time ago too. I'm not sure how far $10 would get me now for the same setup, because it was a big setup. But if anyone is getting you to give them large sums of money, just don't. I know this is going to be a very triggering topic when you talk about being paid to teach. I personally think there's nothing wrong with being paid to teach. And usually if you're a part of a coven, there is a membership fee every year or every month or 6 months, however it's kind of worked out within your group, to cover things like candles and supplies, and to take care of maybe a coven stead or whatever it may be, or robes or things like that. And people who run public events and gatherings and get paid, and that should be the way it is. It's you helping them. These things they aren't free. I don't feel there's nothing wrong with that. I get paid as a teacher to teach. Professionals get paid to do what they do professionally. But I'm talking about costs of money that make you feel uncomfortable, or that you're like, where is that money kind of going? Like, I'm not seeing anything for that. I'm not getting the commitment back, or I'm not getting, our robes haven't been upgraded in 3 years. Like, what? That kind of stuff. So your inner compass will know. And often you'll have a treasurer in a coven if it's a very structured coven, and you should be able to find out where that money is going from anyway. And I believe that like the right people are going to be upfront about that crap anyway. Like, they're just going to be like, we bought herbs for our thing and we did this, we made poppets and that cost X amount, that's where the money went. So no, trust your gut. And as I mentioned before, I'm all for taking a friend with you until you're comfortable with the people that you meet at social events. I even had some of my teen Wicca group mums want to meet with me and come along to gatherings and meetings for a while to make sure everything was cool. And I was 100% okay with that. I was so more than happy to talk to them on the phone. I was so more than happy for them to sit in on a few meetings. They did eventually trust enough to kind of let people let their kids come. And I was a teenager at the point too. I wasn't like, I was like 19 or 18. I started when I was, 18, maybe like 17 and a half. It was when I left school anyway, high school. Because that should be a space where people can share, but they did come until they felt comfortable themselves. I am absolutely able to say no to get myself out of situations that make me feel bad, but I know not everyone can. And some people are very afraid of standing up to people in authority figure positions, or find it hard to say no to people. And there's nothing kind of wrong with that. Don't make anyone feel like make you feel like you're broken, but take a buddy if you need to. And if they're saying like no, then again, warning bells. And that's all I'm going to say on that. And I mentioned about not being a friend with everyone in your coven, but you do have to be comfortable working with them, being extremely energetic and emotionally open. There we go. So again, do what works for you. So my journey was, I started as a solitary witch until I found other people in the community. And I'm sure that is a hugely common theme with a lot of us. Many of us find the path on our own before we find others. I can only imagine what it would be like being born into a magical home, or what it would have been like having a coven stead where people met all the time, like, you know, my parents being a part of a larger community. It would be a very different experience, and hey, I may have rebelled. I'm a highly social person, and very early on I wanted to find other people to connect with, to talk to, and share my experiences with. I felt quite alone, and book learning can only get me so far. I have to learn. I am a big believer in learning styles, and I have to learn through experience. I have to do to learn. So that was like, okay, I kind of know this stuff by rote. I know what I'm doing. Is this kind of right energetically, and can I get some guidance? And I was so lucky. I don't know if it was just dumb luck or divine protection or intuitive guidance. And look, it was probably all three combined, to be honest. But I was extremely fortunate not to have any hugely negative experiences that made me want to walk away from Wicca and witchcraft behind. The first thing I did was run a teen witch group for a while. And this was, actually, no, it was still while I was in high school. The craft was out, and I was so scared of anyone finding out that I was a witch. I remember one of my friends in high school knew that I was a witch, and this was a time when the craft had come out, and there were a bunch of girls at my high school going around saying they were witches. And one girl from our class had like fallen down and broken her arm, and one of the girls in this like The Craft, and I love that fucking movie, but The Craft group said that they had made her break her arm, and it was just like, you know, they were dressing, anyway, it was a whole thing. And I was terrified because I had dedicated myself at this point. I was like full on witch stuff everywhere at home, very out to my family, but hadn't told anyone at school. But I told a couple of my friends, and I remember just going, have you told anyone? Like, I would get really scared because it was like, yeah, I didn't want to get bullied and harassed. And, you know, I'd had that experience in primary school. I was very bullied, and I had amazing friends in high school. So I remember just being a little bit fearful of people finding out, because I didn't know if people were going to understand me. Now I think it would be a little bit different, but back then I was a bit afraid. So I had an Angel Fire page. Who here remembers Angel Fire? And I was holding meetings and running a very open outer court in my area, because mostly I was lonely. I had like a teen witch boyfriend, and it was very, very, and I'm still friends with people from that group. You know, like, that's pretty amazing. Hi, you know who you are if you're watching this. And then there was a very well-known store at the time in Fremantle called The Alchemist. And God, I miss Fremantle, and I do miss The Alchemist. And I wasn't able to join any of the Church of Wicca. They had a Church of Wicca in Western Australia. But I wasn't able to join their celebrations or classes because I wasn't 18 years old. So this was while I was still in high school. But they had balls, and they had classes and all sorts of stuff. And the people in there were kind of a little bit scary, like Lady Liz. Although years later I met her again, and she wasn't as scary as I thought she was at first. And then when they sold the place to the new people, there was a new owner years later. I came back and I nearly burnt the place down because I had a cauldron and the bottom wasn't soldered properly and it tipped over. So just be careful with those cast iron, the brass cauldrons. I have done that. There was just a hole in the carpet, thank goodness. So that was very early on in my witchy Wiccan path. And a friend of mine who I met through the teen witch group that I had introduced me to an extremely well-known male pagan in the community in Perth. And I immediately upon meeting this person had a fuck no screaming in my head. I don't know whether it was, I don't know what it was. This guy had like, at the time, it bothered me a little bit. It wouldn't so much now, but I was young. I was so very naive when I was young. He had a massive ram's head skull over his fireplace, and it was like porn star lit house, and it was just like, it was creepy. And again, not that the skull would worry me now. It was just back then I was like, what the, I was very polite when I left, and I never met that person again. And years later, when I was introduced to the Combined Coven Social Club in Perth, I found out that I missed a whole bunch of drama with a bunch of those people that I initially had met, and I'm really glad that I did. So as I got older, I learnt more, and the team group disbanded and went on their own ways once high school had finished, and I kept running my classes in Fremantle, so it was like every 2 weeks I would run a class. And one member of the team group found me again many, many years later, reminding me that the people that we are meant to walk with will find us again, and we're still friends to this day, and she is a part of the Coven back in Australia. This is where I started to meet more incredible people. It was a lot harder then. The internet wasn't so easy to navigate. We didn't have Meetup, but I met a number of the Scottish, so the Sacred Circle of the Inner Flame, my Coven back's home, through this over the years, through going to public things, through having workshops, through open rituals. We did some open rituals and bigger Sabbats, which were really, really great. And I tried once to form a small coven, and it didn't stick, and it was no one's fault. Life happens, and I've remained friends with the ladies who aren't in Scottish but were in that group. And then more years later, more joining community, more getting trained, and I got super involved thanks to my good friend Tamara Lampard, who is coming to see me in May, and I can't fucking wait. I met a lot of she's a high priestess in Western Australia, and she owned a business, the Sun, Moon and Stars metaphysical store, and I met a lot of amazing high priestesses and priests, and was introduced to a lot of the covens in Perth, again through the Combined Coven Social Club. A lot of them were teaching and active covens as well. I was making more friends. I was celebrating with groups of amazing women who were getting closer and closer, and it was like we would find each other and be like, oh, like we instantly clicked. And then I was very torn. I didn't know whether I wanted to go, because I was taught, I was self-taught, I was self-dedicated, and then I was taught, remotely from another, I was mentored remotely from another high priestess. So I'd never actually kind of done a more traditional out of court and degree system. I did, but it was with someone who was in Sydney and I was in Perth, because I couldn't find anyone back then. And I respected so many people in Perth, and I was just like, do I go through one of these amazing women's, because most of the time high priestesses hold the space for the coven, or do I do my own thing and stay with these amazing friends that I've met who I want to walk with on my journey for now? So I sat with this and asked for counsel from a few elders that I respected, and one of them, I just remember, she was just like, why are you even asking? Like, you've been a leader in this community for a long time. Just go and do your thing. And we formed Scottish, and I formed it with some amazing witches. And that circle is like home for me. Those people are like salve to my soul. Every one of them has a place in my heart. We all bring our own unique things into circle, and it's grown and it's evolved and it's changed, and it's like its own thing, and that's the way it should be. And there isn't a day that goes by that I don't miss them so much. Probably one of the biggest callings to come back to Perth and back to Australia is my coven and my friends and my family. So yeah. But yeah, so we are perfect. No one is. I'm super glad I found them. But then I moved to Vancouver and I started practicing solitary again, which has been even harder with a baby. But thankfully with Meetup, I was able to connect with some lovely local people here. And I'm not really sure where my path is going to go from here. It really depends on whether I move back to Australia or whether I stay here. And there's a lot kind of like not unknowns at the moment. But yeah, that's been my journey, and I've been very, very lucky, and I have loved it. So here are my final tips for finding a coven or group of people to work with. So as I mentioned, don't rush it. It took me 10 years on my own of people coming and going, of being at events, of meeting people, then them leaving and then coming back, and all that kind of cosmic dance stuff for it to stick. And no one, not even if they self-proclaim that they are the grand poobah of Wicca, has any right to invalidate your practice, your connection to the divine, in any way you choose to have a relationship with it, self-initiated or coven-initiated, or you can repeat your lineage back to like cave people, witches, I don't care. Solitary or coven, it's all legitimate because it's all your own spiritual practice. Come at me if you want to on that one. I don't think anyone will, but like one of the big bugbears I had is, you know, there are some very well respected people in the pagan community, in the Wiccan community, who would just be like, oh, well, you're not this, that, and the other. I'm like, I don't give a shit what you think. Like, I respect you and I, you know, even like you as a person, but you have no right to invalidate my practice and my relationship with the divine. We're not the church, or have you not like got the memo? And then my last little note is trust your gut, trust your instincts, trust your guides, however that feels, and whatever signals you get, just trust when you're meeting people, because you will be led to the right people in the right time. So I hope that you've stuck around with this video. This was a much longer one than normal, but I hope I've at least answered a bunch of your questions that people have been asking. If you've got any more questions about covens or working with groups or whatever it may be, then please let me know, and I will see what I can do, whatever I feel inspired to talk about. And thank you so much for watching.